What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back with another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at some Toronto Maple Leafs rumors from Spectors Hockey. Now, I'm going to be kind of giving my opinion as well and looking at some stats and some stuff from Spectors Hockey. Now, if you're not a Leafs fan, I apologize. The trade rumors for every team should be coming back daily very soon. I'm hoping by tomorrow. I want to keep doing it as we get closer to the February 25th trade deadline. So, obviously, we've heard the rumors about Toronto trying to acquire a defenseman for the past couple years. Fans have generated some of that talk by wanting a defenseman, and I can't blame them. I'm a part of that. I'd really like the Leafs to go out there and get a good defenseman. Now, the biggest argument is, are the Leafs going to go for one or two, depth pieces, guys that can fill in certain roles in the playoffs? Or are they going to go for a top four defenseman to solidify the team and make them much better? Or do they go after both and try to acquire a really good one and, a depth piece, which I would obviously prefer the really good one and a depth piece, but if they grab two depth defensemen, it would probably be a good idea as well, as we do know the Toronto Maple Leafs need to switch around those D pairings and get themselves into a better position to go into the playoffs. So, basically, what's being said here is that Pierre LeBrun has reported that the Toronto Maple Leafs might be willing to include their first-round pick in the right package for a top four defenseman. Now, before we get into that, it's also stated, don't expect that Leafs blue liner Jake Gardiner would be in any deal or going anywhere. And this is what I've been trying to explain to people. And I know people don't like what I was saying about keeping Jake Gardiner and not harassing him on social media and stuff like that, which is crazy because you shouldn't harass him on social media anyways. Jake Gardiner is good for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're trying to add, not subtract. We've heard about this before. A couple years ago, when the Toronto Maple Leafs were looking to get into the playoffs, and they were in a good spot when Matthews and Nylander and Marner all had their rookie seasons, when everybody was just shocked that the Leafs were so good. Lou Lamoriello and other people around the team, management, and even reporters were basically saying, the media, not just reporters, but we're basically saying that the Leafs went out and got a guy like Brian Boyle to show the team, listen, we're trying to add here. We know you guys have been playing hard. We know you guys have asked for some help. Here's a guy. You don't go to the Leafs and go, okay, I know we're looking for a defenseman, so we're trading Jake Gardiner. It doesn't make sense. It's been reported the Leafs are even trying to re-sign him. All signs point that he's probably going to walk as an unrestricted free agent, but it's good to hear that the Leafs are trying to use him as an own rental, which basically means because he's a free agent, he's a rental because you're probably going to lose him in the summer, quite like what they did with Tyler Bozak and James Van Riemsdyk, which were good decisions. So don't expect that Jake Gardiner would be in a deal. It's basically saying he's going to command a lot of money, but that's not the point. The Leafs have a lot of young talent, and it's said here, but that's obvious. And basically what they're saying is if they were going to make a pretty solid package, it can include a first-round pick, a Kasperi Kapanen, and Andreas Johnsson, and a lot of people don't like that. I, for one, also don't like that either. But getting back to the first-round pick thing, that surprises me a little bit because I have reported, or at least said before in a video, that it doesn't make sense for the Leafs to give up too much assets because with a cap crunch means you're going to have to slide in some of those cheaper contracts, young prospects coming up to fill the void because you're going to be removing bigger contracts from the team. Look at what they just did with Calle Rosen when they signed Nylander as well. Rosen signed to a couple-year extension, under $1 million. You've got Trevor Moore, who was just signed a couple years, $775,000 or something like that. Signed to a couple of years. Those two are going to slide into the team next year. All signs are pointing to Timothy Liljegren being on the team next year. Sandin's going to get a look. The Leafs are going to be trying to fit in some of these cheap contracts. And if the Leafs do end up making a big move here and trying to go after a top four guy, it means they're going to have to get a guy that has a little bit of term left on his deal as well. So let's say they deal a first-round pick in Andreas Johnsson and like a weird, not weird, I don't know where that came from, but a decent prospect or whatever. You're probably getting back a defenseman that has 1 or 2 years left on a deal. So like an Alec Martinez, a Jake Muzzin from the Kings, obviously both those guys would be decent options. Obviously that you wouldn't trade that package for those guys. I don't think they're worth that much. I'm just saying they want guys with term. So like Dougie Hamilton, of course. There's other names out there. Maybe those names aren't the best ones that you want to hear, but Kyle Dubas has apparently stated before to the media and to reporters or whoever, he's been on the phone with probably some insiders like Freeman, LeBron, Johnston, McKenzie, all those guys, saying that he wants a guy with term to come back to this team. So that way next year he'll have a guy who's sitting in the $4 to $5 million range. So they'll replace Gardiner's contract essentially. He'll slide into that lineup and, you know, impact the Leafs defense, their blue line, to make them much better. So what I envision the Leafs doing is I actually do think they are going to trade the first round pick, and a guy like Kapanen or Johnsson, as much as I don't want them to go, I feel like they'd rather give up a guy like Johnsson, even though both of them have been good, and Johnsson is of course a very good forward. If you can get a top 4 guy with term who is actually going to make an impact, you kind of have to part ways with a guy like that, and it really does suck. Another thing I can see the Leafs doing is going after a guy like Radko Gudas, who I've on this channel before said wouldn't be a good option, but it was a heat of the moment thing watching, you know, some of his dumb plays where, you know, he's a borderline suspension defenseman where he makes some rough plays. But I've looked into his numbers, I've listened to other people, and maybe a guy like Gudas makes sense. And a Bouwmeester, like bringing in depth pieces like that instead of making a huge move could work. And then bringing up Rosen to see what he's got. Who knows? It's cool to see that the Leafs are at least considering this, if these reports are true, that they are considering maybe trading a young forward, a first-round pick, and a prospect to really make an impact. We've heard a bunch of different names in the rumor mill for the Leafs for the past couple of years. Justin Falk has been in those discussions. We've heard Hamilton. We've heard basically every defenseman from Carolina. Pesci, you know, Slavin, people, he won't come here. There's no way. That'll cost way too much. But Jake Muzzin, Martinez, like I mentioned, Bouwmeester, Duncan Keith has too much term. He's going to be, and again, I'm saying too much term because he's going to be a lot older when that contract expires too, and it's just not a good look for the Leafs. Nicholas Kronwall, I just don't think that makes sense either. Jensen has also been talked about from the Detroit Red Wings. People keep bringing up Pietrangelo and Parayko. They would probably need a Johnsson, a first-round pick, and something else, like, or a Kapanen. Like, those guys are going to cost you quite a bit because, you know, they both have term. They're both good defensemen, both right-handed shots that would make an immediate impact. The thing with the Blues is if you look at the standings, I'm recording this January 16th. That's when the Spectre's hockey article comes out because he makes them daily. He makes headlines and rumor reports, so make sure you guys go check those out. But the Blues currently are sitting in 6th in their division. They're in the wild card spot. They're sitting 6th in like the wild card scene, but they have 45 points, and Minnesota currently has 49. So as much as they may still have a chance, I'm not too sure if they're willing to buy at the deadline, but I also don't think they have to sell necessarily. So that'll be interesting to see. We've heard Tarasenko's name being tossed out there. That would take a home run, and Shen for other teams. But we'll get to that in another video. I want to talk about the Blues specifically. I have before, but I want to discuss them again. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Just a general discussion on what the Leafs may be looking to do. I think it is interesting, like I stated, that a first-round pick and young pieces may be involved. It depends on who you get. A top 4 guy is going to cost quite a bit, and a couple decent depth pieces might not cost you as much. We've also heard about them maybe acquiring a forward, which would make sense, but, you know, Wayne Simmons has been in there, Ferland. Guys, it's going to cost a lot, so we'll have to see what happens as the days, weeks, and time goes by. It's going to be an interesting February 25th, or maybe even before that. So if you're new, make sure you subscribe. Love to have more hockey conversations with you. Join the squad. Let's get to 5,000 subscribers. Thank you guys very much for all your support. And also, if you like music, if you like reaction videos, I have a new channel called Andrew Piluk. So obviously just take the hockey off of the end and type in Andrew Piluk, and you'll find my reaction video. Subscribe over there. The channel's growing quite quick, actually. So thank you guys if you supported over there as well. Make sure to click that notification bell and check out all the links down below. Follow me on Twitter at Andy Piluk, ANDYPILUK. I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Peace.